ever thought about getting at the topics?
No, because that's what you got brought here for.
Nah, we are here to talk about the topics.
You got brought here for to talk. You can run your mouth so he can look at
you. That's what the podcast is, bro.
Too many people talking.
Marc and Flip.
No, he got me. He about to fry me up.
No, I'm not frying you. It's too many people talking. I'm not gonna talk over.
So we'll all be quiet. What topic do you want to talk about?
Nothing.
Queenzflip fires back at Joe Budden and Marc Lamont Hill. Now, Queenzflip, one of the longtime members of the Joe Budden podcast at this point, decided to get his gun and start shooting. And the person he would shoot at was Marc Lamont Hill. But did he really land? Or were they just a bunch of empty shots that missed the target? So how this started is that Flip is making fun of Ice and Marc is kind of standing up for him. And I don't know if he was defending Ice because he knows Ice shouldn't really be played with like that because, you know, they treat him with kid gloves. But anyway, Marc starts pointing out how Flip is always talking about other people, but he doesn't engage in topics. And he tells him, how come you don't get at the topics? But Flip fires back and he says, that's what you are here for. And I don't know if that was a proper response because how do we know Flip is not there to talk about topics as well? Bad response to me. And then Marc volleys back by saying, oh, he about to fry me up. Obviously playing with Flip's character on the show, a phrase that he likes to get off. And one of the funniest things about the he about to fry me up is that a lot of people notice that Flip rarely fries anyone up. He just says the term, but then his jokes really don't land. And then Marc follows up with another jab saying, Flip, what topic do you want to talk about? Now, that is in no doubt a reference to how Flip just goes long segments without talking. I mean, everybody who listens to the Joe Budden podcast knows that it's easy to forget Flip is there for a lot of episodes. I'd be thinking he got suspended midway through a lot of episodes. Like, oh, I guess he left. I guess Joe told him to go home. Nah, he's right there on the couch. If you listen to audio, you really don't have Flip as a great presence. And that's the thing about Flip is he is more of an asset to video. He's not necessarily an asset to the audio experience. Matter of fact, I think he really hurts the audio experience. But if you're watching video-wise, you're like, oh, Flip about to flip out. I wonder what he's gonna do. However, Marc is on the other end of that spectrum where he's an asset to the audio, and I look forward to what he has to say. But then Marc does the same type of thinking when he asks Flip, when does he decide to jump in on a topic?
How do you decide when to jump on a side? I'm on your side now.
So there you have it. Marc is shooting at Flip. I don't know if he really is that invested or if he's just noticing something and now he wants to point it out. But there was also a shot that Joe Budden received from Flip earlier in the week. Now, this is when they start talking about that whole Mona versus Flip situation where Mona said Flip was adjusting her mic in a weird way that kind of looked HRE, sexual harassment. And then Joe Budden says, hey, you think it's okay to make people feel uncomfortable?
How many times do you want HR to look the other way?
But Flip, he doesn't hold back. He's like, yo, what about you? Money, 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 money.
Oh, you should know about that. Money, 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 money.
Now, a lot of you might be wondering, what does Flip mean by that? Well, what Flip is insinuating is that Joe Budden had to settle some type of situation that happened on air that was very HRE, sexual harassing. And that's what he did with that comment. So I pointed out to say that now Flip is starting to really shoot at people as he did with Marc, as he did with Joe, but he might be fighting a battle that he will ultimately lose because he doesn't have the same equity that he used to have in the show. When he first got there, oh, he was really good. He was making things hot. Ice and Ish made it a snooze fest, but when he arrived, it was now appointment viewing for a lot of listeners. And we'll have to see if Flip's really ready to go all the way there. But back to Marc versus Flip. Marc would once again kind of diss Flip by saying, oh, you're doing great today.
Hey, Marc, you playing with me, bro?
Marc, you need to take naps.
I think you're doing great today.
And making fun of how Flip thinks about race and stuff like that.
Yeah. Just because they dark skin don't make them African. Yeah, he's just talking about any dark skin person.
You just talking about, well, that's...
I don't think any dark skinned person is African. That's not what I'm talking about. All right?
That's a great input.
Okay.
Thanks.
I didn't even know you were still on that shit.
Yeah, I totally moved past it.
So Marc is... I think he's going to put Flip in the torture chamber. I'm not going to lie. I think Flip might have dug his grave. For those of you thinking that I was going to be pro Flip in this. Obviously, you didn't think that because me and Flip have an interesting history. But I'm Team Marc all the way. I value what Marc brings to the pod more. And I hope Marc cooks him. And I'm looking forward to that day. And I can't wait. And I wanted to also give you another clip that I found interesting. And that was Mona catching Marc dissing the cast. And here it is.
The other thing I like to do is to watch people who are experts at something go up against people who are not.
Ain't that something you like watching like that?
Or
Ain't it went over everybody's head? Wake up!
So as you can see, it seems like several cast members are starting to catch on to Marc. But my thing is, I feel like he's game. Like, this isn't a situation where they're going to be able to overtalk him and he's going to forget about it. Because like I said in a previous video, Marc is able to leave a certain moment in the episode and then come back episodes later and diss you again. That's something that Joe only seems to be good at and Flip a little bit. But Marc is tactical. He's strategic. And I don't think people like Flip or Mona have demonstrated that to the extent that he has. So there you have it. Marc versus Flip is in full effect. And also, Flip is starting to shoot back at Joe. And we're going to have to see. I'm Team Marc all the way in this war against Flip. I feel like I've been reflecting on my listening habits for the show. And I can say now, I honestly be looking forward to the show at greater levels than I did before. Like in the last, like there was a time with Melissa Ford, Flip, Ish, and Ice where I was like, they're going to do the same thing again. But now with Mona and Marc there, I'm like, yo, this is an entertaining show. Like, there was times when I was like looking forward to the Patreon. I finish every episode as soon as it comes out now. In the past, I used to catch it for a little bit and then stop watching it. I really look forward to listening to the show at a greater level. And I think what it is that Flip and Melissa Ford, they're just not that good at the conversational aspect. I think both of them were video hires, right? Melissa Ford looks great. So she's great optically to watch on the show. But when it came to conversation, she was never really great at that. Same with Flip. I think his performance is different than Melissa Ford. So in some ways, he's great as far as an entertainer. But when it comes to conversation, he leaves a lot to be desired. Oftentimes, he just echoes the same talking point of someone he agrees with, doesn't really add much. Like if Ice says something, he'd be like, yeah, that's a great point, Freeze. I really think you did your thing, and I got to agree with that because I agree with that because this, and that. But he doesn't add a different perspective, and it's the same refried talking point that isn't really engaging. So my thoughts on the show is like, I feel like it's headed in a good direction, but we'll have to see because I see Mona getting more subdued, and I'm even noticing her trying to fall back and fit in. And there's a lot to talk about with Mona. You know, she was talking crazy on another pod, and I'm going to do an episode about that. But let me know what you think about Flip versus Marc. How will this go? I tend to think of Marc and Flip as, you know, like Oscar De La Hoya versus Fernando Vargas. Sit down with me, boxing fans. You might know what I'm talking about. But to the casuals, y'all remember Fernando Vargas? He was like a knockout artist. And people were like, yo, Oscar De La Hoya's the pretty boy. And then when they fought, Fernando Vargas would barrage Oscar De La Hoya with a bunch of punches. And it looked like Vargas was getting busy.
First round, a little bit stiff, and Vargas is on him throwing punches.
But really, he wasn't landing any shots. Oscar De La Hoya would knock him out a little bit later. And I think that's what Flip is doing in these back and forths with Marc. It looks flashy. It looks like he's doing his thing, but he's not really saying anything. And I actually think Marc is winning those exchanges. But let me know what you think in the comments. I feel like this is getting interesting, and I'm looking forward to the pod. Also, where's Ish? I'm not jumping on the, ledge with a bunch of theories, but I do wonder where he's been at. And I can't say that I'm not mad at Ish not being there. I have enjoyed the Ishless pod. I've enjoyed the Melissa Fordless pods. I think everybody's getting some time off or taking some time off. And I can't wait to see how, Joe solidifies the cast, who's going to be in on certain days, who's not going to be in on certain days. All right, y'all. Follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. And tap in with my Patreon, The Stop. There's a lot of good content on there. Just had a conversation with Rory. There's also a bunch of spaces with Joe Budden, Ian Schwartzman, Marc Lamont Hill, and Imani, a bunch of members of the Podverse. There's also old podcast episodes that I really think you will enjoy. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.